Destroy the old you, or the world will keep using the same version of you until nothing is left. This is not a motivational speech. This is not about finding yourself. This is about ending a version of you that no longer deserves to exist. Stoicism teaches one brutal truth. You cannot build a powerful life on a weak foundation. If you feel lost, drained, resentful, or invisible, it is not because life is unfair. It is because you are still living as someone you have outgrown. And the first step is not improvement. It is destruction. 1. Why the old you must die. Most people never change because they are emotionally attached to who they used to be. They cling to old habits, old identities, old wounds, old excuses. They say, "That's just how I am." Stoicism sees this as spiritual decay. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. If you resist change, you resist life itself." The old you is not innocent. The old you tolerated disrespect, avoided responsibility, chased validation, feared solitude, reacted emotionally, and lived on autopilot. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The old you was trained for survival, not greatness. What once protected you is now limiting you. To rebuild yourself, you must first let that identity collapse. 2. Destruction is not violence, it is clarity. When Stoics speak of destruction, they do not mean chaos. They mean removing illusions, stripping false beliefs, burning weak narratives, ending behaviors that no longer serve virtue. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Destroying the old you will feel like failure. People will misunderstand. Some will mock. Others will resist your change. That is proof you were doing it right. Because when you change, you threaten the comfort of those who stayed the same. 3. The solitude phase. Why rebuilding must be done alone. This part scares most people, because rebuilding yourself cannot be done in crowds. Stoics valued solitude not as loneliness, but as a training ground. Seneca wrote, "Withdraw into yourself as much as you can." Why? Because noise sustains weakness. When you are constantly surrounded by opinions, expectations, distractions, emotional dependencies, you never hear your own mind. Rebuilding requires silence, distance, discipline, self-observation. You are not isolating to escape others. You are isolating to face yourself without anesthesia. 4. The identity collapse, the most painful stage. At some point, you will feel empty. The old habits no longer satisfy you, but the new self is not yet built. This is the void. Most people panic here. They rush back to distractions, social media, toxic relationships, old comforts. Stoicism teaches, do not run from emptiness, study it. Marcus Aurelius practiced daily reflection to observe his own mind without judgment. This stage hurts because your ego is dying. Your old coping mechanisms no longer work. Your excuses sound hollow. But this is also where real strength begins, because the man who survives emptiness can survive anything. 5. Cutting emotional dependence. The old you depended on approval, reassurance, validation, and attention. Stoics saw emotional dependence as a form of slavery. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Rebuilding yourself alone means learning to self-regulate emotions, self-validate effort, self-correct behavior, self-soothe without escape. This is not coldness, this is sovereignty. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, am I acting in alignment with virtue? 6. The discipline of discomfort. The old you avoided discomfort. The rebuilt you trains in it. Stoics practiced voluntary hardship, cold exposure, hunger, physical training, mental restraint, not to suffer, but to remove fear of suffering. Seneca advised, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare. Why? Because comfort makes you fragile, discomfort makes you unbreakable. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you weaken the old self and strengthen the new one. 7. Destroying the narrative that keeps you small. Every weak version of you is protected by a story. Stories like, I'm not ready, I had no choice, that's just how life is, others have it easier. Stoicism demands brutal honesty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you always own the option of having no opinion. This includes opinions about yourself. When you stop repeating the story, the behavior loses its power. You don't need motivation, you need clarity. 8. The first rebuilt brick, self-respect. Before success, before confidence, before purpose, there is self-respect. Self-respect is built when you keep promises to yourself, when you walk away from what degrades you, when you do what is hard when no one is watching. Stoics believed virtue was the only true good. Not comfort, not pleasure, not applause, virtue. And virtue begins with self-respect. Part 2. The Silent Furnace. Why you must rebuild yourself alone. Stoicism. Stoicism teaches this harsh truth. Transformation does not happen in crowds. Strength is not built with applause, and rebirth does not come with comfort. If you are serious about self-mastery, if you truly want to become unrecognizable, then there is a phase you cannot skip. You must walk alone. Not because people hate you, not because the world is cruel, but because growth requires silence, and silence terrifies most people. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that before a man becomes powerful, he must first become undistracted. 1. Solitude is not punishment, it is training. Most people fear being alone because silence forces confrontation. When there is no noise, no messages, no validation, no distractions, you are left with your thoughts. And for the untrained mind, that is unbearable. But Stoicism does not teach avoidance, it teaches endurance. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations alone, not to impress anyone, but to discipline his own mind. Solitude is where illusions die. You realize how much of your identity depended on approval, how many choices were driven by fear, how often you betrayed your own values just to belong. Alone, you see yourself clearly, and clarity is painful before it is freeing. 2. Why you cannot rebuild while surrounded by old versions of you. You cannot become a new man while constantly negotiating with your past. Every familiar voice pulls you backwards. Old expectations, old labels, old weaknesses. People don't resist your growth because they hate you. They resist it because your change threatens their comfort. Stoicism teaches detachment, not hatred. You don't need to explain, you don't need permission, you don't need approval. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, Be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Translation: let them misunderstand you. Growth often looks like arrogance to those who refuse discipline. 3. The silent phase is where discipline is forged. This is the phase where no one claps, no one checks on you, no one sees the effort. And that is precisely why it works. Discipline that depends on motivation collapses. Discipline built in silence endures. In solitude, you learn to wake up without encouragement, work without praise, improve without recognition. This is Stoic power. Not loud, not dramatic, unshakable. Seneca warned that a man who needs witnesses is already enslaved. When you can act correctly with no audience, you are free. 4. Loneliness is the price of integrity. There will be nights when doubt creeps in, moments when you wonder, is this worth it? Why does no one understand? Why does this feel so heavy? This is not weakness, this is transition. Stoicism does not promise comfort, it promises strength. Loneliness sharpens you. It removes dependency. It strips false confidence. What remains is character. And character is built by doing the right thing even when no one is watching. 5. Stop looking for rescue. Become the authority. One of the hardest Stoic lessons: no one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not your family, not your past self. Waiting weakens you. Ownership transforms you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, do not act as if you had 10,000 years to live. Meaning, stop delaying responsibility. You rebuild yourself the moment you stop outsourcing your strength. 6. This phase is temporary but essential. Stoicism does not glorify isolation forever. This phase is not about hatred of people. It is about loyalty to your values. You withdraw to rebuild. You isolate to refine. You go quiet to regain clarity. When you return, you are not bitter, you are anchored. And that difference is everything. 7. The test. Can you stay consistent without witnesses? Ask yourself honestly, can you train without posting? Can you improve without announcing? Can you suffer without complaining? Can you grow without explaining? If yes, you are becoming dangerous in the best way. Stoicism is not about domination, it is about self-rule. And self-rule is born in solitude. Closing reflection, Stoic style. You are not falling behind, you are withdrawing to advance. The silence you're experiencing is not emptiness, it is preparation. The Stoics would tell you this: endure now, command later.
Part 3. The Return of the Rebuilt Self. Stoic Integration and Mastery. There is a phase of transformation no one talks about. The destruction is over. The solitude has done its work. The discipline has been forged. And yet, this is where most people fail. Because rebuilding yourself is not complete when you become stronger in isolation. It is complete only when you re-enter the world without losing yourself. This is the final Stoic trial. Number 1. Strength that cannot be seen is the only strength that lasts. The rebuilt self does not announce its arrival. It does not seek recognition. It does not demand respect. It does not explain its boundaries. It simply moves differently. The Stoics understood this deeply. True power is quiet because it does not need reinforcement. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." Your return is not about dominance, it is about stability. You are no longer reactive, no longer easily provoked, no longer hungry for approval. And because of that, people feel it. Not admiration, not fear, gravity. Number 2, the world will test the new you on purpose. When you return changed, the world will test whether the change is real. Old triggers will reappear. Old people will try old dynamics. Old environments will attempt to pull old reactions from you. Not to punish you, but to verify you. Stoicism teaches that progress is proven through resistance, not comfort. You will know the work is complete when insults no longer reach your identity, praise no longer inflates your ego, chaos no longer hijacks your behavior. When someone disrespects you and your first instinct is clarity, not emotion, you have crossed a line few ever cross. This is mastery. Number 3, emotional sovereignty. This energy is not mine. Here is the Stoic principle that seals the transformation. You do not have to accept emotional energy that is handed to you. Anger, bitterness, insecurity, projection. Most people absorb it unconsciously. The Stoic refuses. When tension enters a room, you say internally, "This energy is not mine." When someone tries to provoke you, "This is their chaos, not my command." Each time you do this, anger loses another doorway into your mind. You are no longer defending peace, you are embodying it. Number 4, discipline becomes identity, not effort. In the beginning, discipline feels heavy. You force yourself, you resist temptation, you fight your impulses. But at this stage, something shifts. Discipline is no longer what you do, it is who you are. You don't negotiate with weakness, you don't argue with distraction, you don't romanticize comfort. Not because you are harsh, but because your standards are clear. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." The rebuilt self does not need motivation. It moves from alignment. Number 5, solitude is no longer escape, it is choice. Earlier, you walked alone because you had to. Now, you walk alone because you can. You are no longer lonely, you are selective. You don't fear silence, you don't chase connection. You don't cling. Relationships are now additions, not lifelines. And paradoxically, this is when the right people appear. Not because you seek them, but because you no longer need them. This is Stoic independence. Number 6, the final test, acting without witnesses. The ultimate measure of transformation is not how you behave when watched, it is how you behave when no one will ever know. Do you still act with integrity? Do you still choose discipline? Do you still hold your standard? Stoicism is not a performance,
It is a private contract with yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations never intending them to be read. That alone tells you everything. The rebuilt self does not need validation. Its reward is self-respect. Number 7. You do not go back, you move forward differently. You don't return to the world as the same person. You return with fewer words, with slower reactions, with deeper patience, with sharper boundaries. You don't explain why you changed. You don't defend your silence. You don't argue your values. You live them, and the world adjusts. Number 8. The Stoic endgame, inner rule. This is the destination Stoicism points towards, not control over others, not domination of outcomes, but rule over oneself. You wake up governed by reason. You move guided by principle. You rest without guilt. You act without fear. And no external force, not loss, not insult, not chaos, can overthrow you, because the throne is internal. Final reflection. You were never meant to remain who you were. That version survived. This one chooses. You destroyed the old self not out of hatred, but out of respect for what you could become. Now live accordingly, quietly, relentlessly, unshakably. This is Stoic mastery.